Peace, Israel, and Yah bless. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. Today is the Sabbath day. Blessed be the name of Yah the King. I hope you're having a peace and blessed Sabbath. The title of today's lesson is Set My Face Against That Man and His House. The title of today's lesson is Set My Face Against That Man and His House. Once again, brace yourselves, tighten up your jaws. Do not turn to the left or to the right, or you will get hit in the mouth. We are to walk the straight and narrow way of the Most High's commandments. We will start this lesson in Genesis chapter 26. Genesis chapter 26. Once again, the title of this lesson is Set My Face Against That Man and His House. We will start at Genesis chapter 26, and we will start off with verse 3 of Genesis chapter 26. And verse 3 reads of Genesis chapter 26, Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee. For unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. Verse 4, And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and will give unto thy seed all these countries. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Verse 5, Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. So we're seeing here clearly, based on what the Father has done, the Son inherits the blessings. Now, as it pertains to this specific verse, we know clearly that the law was here before Moses because Abraham kept it. Okay, so therefore, now Isaac, he also inherits the same covenants, and that covenant is also given to his son Jacob. Okay, so you're to keep that as far as the covenant moving within the seed line from generation to generation. Now let's move to Genesis chapter 35, and we'll read verse 2 and 3. Genesis chapter 35. Genesis chapter 35, we will read verse 2 and verse 3. And verse 2 of Genesis chapter 35 reads, Then Jacob said unto his household, and to all that were with him, Put away the strange gods, idols, that are among you, and be clean, and change your garments. So our people, the house of Israel, the sons of Jacob, were walking after idols at this time. And he is telling them, he's taking command of his house. He is telling his children to put away these strange idols and to be clean. Verse 3, And let us arise and go up to Bethel, and I will make there an altar unto Yah, who answered me in the day of my distress, and was with me in the way which I went. Verse 4, And they gave unto Jacob all the strange gods which were in their hand, and on their earrings which were in their ears. And Jacob hid them under the oak which was by Shechem. So these strange gods that the house of Israel had, Jacob, who is Israel, commanded his children to give up all the idols that they had in their ears, on their earrings, and any idol that they had in their possession. He commanded them to give it up. So he took away their idols from them. Verse 5, And they journeyed, and the terror of Yah was upon the cities that were round about them, and they did not pursue after the sons of Jacob. Jacob is Israel. So in their sojourn, the nations around the children of Israel were fearful of them because the Most High Spirit was upon them. But in this verse and in this chapter, you see clearly where Jacob is commanding his house to walk after the ways of the Most High, meaning he commanded them to take all of their idols off of their person and to get rid of them and he took the idols from them and buried it under an oak. So here you have a man taking charge of his house. Now, let's move to Samuel, 1 Samuel chapter 2. The book of 1 Samuel. We will go to 1 Samuel chapter 2, and we will read verse 22 through 25. The book of 1 Samuel chapter 2, and we will read verse 22 through 25. And verse 22 reads, Now Eli was very old, and heard all that his sons did unto all Israel, and how they lay with the women that assembled at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. Verse 23, And he said unto them, Why do ye such things? For I hear of your evil dealings by all this people. Verse 24, Nay, my sons, for it is no good report that I hear. Ye make Yah's people to transgress. Verse 25, If one man sin against another, the judge shall judge him. But if a man sin against Yah, who shall entreat for him? Notwithstanding, they hearkened not unto the voice of their father, because Yah would slay them. So here we have Eli, who is the high priest at this time, and his sons are running amok of the Most High's law. He is allowing this thing to happen. He did not make the correction. However, he did call his sons and he told them, hey, look, I'm aware of what you're doing. And he's making it plain here that if a regular man, a regular Israelite, or a stranger were to transgress the Most High, he can make a petition for himself. He will come to the priest and he can offer up a sacrifice and he may be forgiven for his transgression. However, when a Levite, the priest, does it, there is no go-between between the Levite and the Most High. The Levite himself, he is the go-between. And there's no go-between between him and the Most High. So when the Levite transgress, his punishment is going to be greater for the simple fact there's no one that can atone for him and for his folly. So this is Eli and his sons. Now, let's move down to verse 27 of the same chapter. Verse 27 reads, And there came a man of Yah unto Eli, and said unto him, Thus saith Yah, Did I plainly appear unto the house of thy father, when they were in Egypt in Pharaoh's house? His father, the house of Eli, would be the house of Aaron. And I did choose him out of all of the tribes of Israel to be my priest. That's the house of Levi. To offer unto mine altar, to burn incense, to wear an ephod before me. And did I give unto the house of thy father all the offerings made by fire of the children of Israel? So the Most High is asking Eli, Eli, did I not appear before your fathers, who would be Aaron? And did I not choose him and his seed to minister unto me forever? Verse 29, Wherefore kick ye at my sacrifice, and at mine offering, which I have commanded in my habitation, and honorest thy sons above me, to make yourselves fat with the chiefest of all the offerings of my people Israel, or of Israel my people. So the Most High here is chastising, is telling Eli, did I not choose your father, Aaron, and his sons to minister before me? Now, wherefore, why are you scoffing at my sacrifice? Why are you walking contrary to the laws that I have set before you? Why are you honoring your sons above me? Our first commandment, we are to put nothing before the Most High. So therefore, Eli's transgression here is he's allowing his sons to walk contrary to the Most High's law, and Eli is not correcting this thing. That is his folly. Verse 30. Wherefore, the strong one of Israel saith, I said indeed that thy house and the house of thy father Aaron shall walk before me forever. But now Yah saith, be it far from me, for them that honor me I will honor, and they that despise me shall be lightly esteemed. Verse 31. Behold, the days come that I will cut off thine arm, and the arm of thy father's house, the house of Aaron, that there shall not be an old man in thine house. Verse 32. And thou shalt set an end, and thou shalt see an enemy in my habitation, in all the wealth which Yah shall give Israel, and there shall not be an old man in thine house forever. Verse 36. 33, excuse me. And the man of thine, whom I shall not cut off from mine altar, shall be to consume thine eyes, and to grieve thine heart. And all the increase of thine house shall die in the flower of their age. Verse 34. And this shall be a sign unto thee, that shall come upon thy two sons, on Hophni and Phinehas, in one day they shall both of them die. Verse 35. And I will raise me up a faithful priest, that shall do according to that which is in mine heart and in my mind. And I will build him a sure house, and he shall walk before mine anointed forever. Verse 36. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left in thine house shall come and crouch to him for a piece of silver and a morsel of bread, and shall say, put me, I pray thee, into one of the priest's office, that I may eat a piece of bread. Now, what we have just covered here is Eli, once again, and his sons, he refused to do what he's commanded to do, and what his forefathers had done before him. That is to command the Most High's laws, and to command his children to walk after the laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts of the Most High. So what the Most High pronounced against Eli, he pronounced evil against Eli's house, because Eli put his children, put his sons before the Most High. And the Most High said he will kill Eli's sons, and he will ensure that his sons, any sons after him, any one of Eli's line, will be cut down in the flower of their age. They will be young men. He's going to kill them early. Okay, so what you're to take from this is your folly, your errors, your children can suffer for what you do. So you are not to be selfish in thinking you can do what you want. For the Most High clearly stated that he will punish us the third and the fourth generations, and we are to be mindful of that. So here, evil is pronounced against Eli's house. The Most High is saying that he will kill his sons. He will kill them young. All right. Now, let's move over to 1 Samuel, one chapter over. 1 Samuel chapter 3. 1 Samuel chapter 3, and we will read verse 11 through verse 14. Because some of us have been told that if you sin 1,000 times, you ask for forgiveness 1,000 times, and you'll be forgiven. That's what they teach you in these Christian churches. And this is to reiterate that that is not how the Most High operates. Once again, 1 Samuel chapter 3, and we will start at verse 11. And verse 11 reads, And Yah said to Samuel, Behold, I will do a thing in Israel, at which both the ears of everyone that heareth it shall tingle. Verse 12, In that day I will perform against Eli all things which I have spoken concerning his house. So this one man's house, the Most High is about to pronounce evil against his house. When I begin, I will also make an end. Verse 13, For I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knoweth, because his sons made themselves vile, and he restrained them not. So the Most High told Eli, I'm going to judge your house, for your sons are laying down with women within the congregation. This is against the rules that have been set forth by the Most High through his prophets. His law states clearly that the man of Israel is not to do this, in particular, the priest. However, this is the type of action that you see within these churches. And as you know by now, these are not the house of the Most High. Neither are the men that leads these idol houses, neither are they Levites. However, here you have real Levites, priests of the Most High, who are laying down with women in the congregation, making themselves vile. Verse 14. And therefore I have sworn unto the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be purged with sacrifice nor offering forever. So here you have the priest of the Most High. The Most High pronounced evil against his house. And the Most High told him, it doesn't matter what you do, Eli. Doesn't matter what generation you do it in. Doesn't matter what sacrifice you bring up. Doesn't matter what vow you try to place. Nothing you do can ever purge you of what is coming upon you and upon your house. So you understand that the Most High is not to be played with as it pertains to his laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts, and the enforcement thereof. Now, before we go to the next verse, someone had asked me about Shiloh. Where is Shiloh? What is Shiloh? Shiloh was the place in Canaan where the Most High had rested his tabernacle. Samuel is a prophet of the Most High, and the word came to Samuel in Shiloh. There are many people that's waiting for Shiloh to come. Shiloh has come and gone. In Shiloh, Shiloh is the place where the Most High killed Eli, killed his sons, and caused the Ark of the Covenant to be taken away by the Philistines because of what was going on in the house of Yah. Because of what Eli and his sons were doing, the priest went astray, therefore the congregation went astray. So when you hear about Shiloh and what the Most High did at Shiloh, you're to remember this very instance where the priesthood went astray in Shiloh. It has come and it has gone. Now, let's turn to Samuel. 1 Samuel chapter 4, moving over one chapter. 1 Samuel chapter 4, we'll read verse 10 and verse 11. 1 Samuel chapter 4, and we'll read verse 10 and verse 11. And verse 10 reads, and the Philistines fought, and Israel was smitten. We are unable to defeat our enemies when we're walking contrary to the Most High's law. And they fled every man into his tent. And there was a very great slaughter, for there fell of Israel 30,000 footmen. So 30,000 of us were broken off by the Most High, because the priesthood is astray. And when the priesthood goes astray, the congregation goes astray. Verse 11, and the ark of Yah was taken, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were slain. So the Most High did tell Eli, I'm going to kill your sons. I'm going to cut your sons down early in their age, at the flower of their age. So this is the Most High following through on his word. If it comes out of his mouth, it has to happen. And so he killed them both. Broke off Hophni, broke off Phinehas. They're both dead. And this is for them walking contrary to the Most High's law, because there is no go-between between them and the Most High. These are priests. All right. Now let's jump down to verse 17. Take a sip of water. Verse 17 of the same chapter. And we will read verse 17. We'll read through 22. And verse 17 reads, and the messenger answered and said, Israel is fled before the Philistines. And there have been also a great slaughter among the people. And thy two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of Yah is taken. So a messenger came in running, fearful, and came to Eli and told Eli, look, we have been beaten down before the Philistines. 30,000 of our men have been killed. The Most High Spirit is no longer with us. And the Philistines hijacked the Most High's ark. Verse 18. And it came to pass, when he made mention of the ark of Yah, that he fell from off the seat backward by the side of the gate, and his neck brake, and he died. For he was an old man and heavy, and he had judged Israel 40 years. This is Eli. Once Eli received the news, look, we have been smitten. The ark of the covenant is taken, and both your 5 sons have been killed. Upon receiving that news, he fell backward, broke his neck, and died. So the Most High have done what he said he would do to Eli's house. He removed his sons, and he removed Eli. So that is to be made clear that the Most High is not to be played with in any way, shape, or form. Now, verse 19. And his daughter-in-law, Phinehas' wife, was with child, near to be delivered. And when she heard the tidings that the ark of Yah was taken, and that her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she bowed herself and travailed, for her pains came upon her. Verse 20. And about the time of her death, the women that stood by her said unto her, fear not, for thou hast borne a son. But she answered not, neither did she regard it. Verse 21. And she named the child Ichabod, saying, the glory is departed from Israel, because the ark of Yah was taken, and because of her father-in-law and her husband. And she said, the glory is departed from Israel, for the ark of Yah is taken. So, we can only be defeated before our enemies when we are walking contrary to the Most High's instruction. And because the priesthood went astray, the Most High caused this thing to happen and caused the Ark of the Covenant to be taken. Now, we read earlier where the Most High said he will raise up a faithful priest. And it wouldn't be of Eli, because the Most High was killing the men in Eli's house. And though they would be allowed to live, they would not be allowed to be grown men. They will not be old. He's going to kill them young in the flower of their age. Now, that new priest, or that was not a new priest, he is a priest. The priest that be raised up in Eli's stead would be Zadok. That would be that. So the priesthood would now come out of the line of Zadok. Still a seed of Aaron, but because of what Eli's sons had done, that became a problem. So, things that I want you to take from this, we're not quite complete yet. Number one, do not allow your children, and I will give you a personal account at the end of this lesson. Do not allow your children to cause you to do what Eli has done. Do not allow your children to cause you to take the Most High's law and set it aside. Well, I'm going to favor my child, my son or my daughter, and therefore walk contrary to the Most High's law because I want to please my child or take care of my child or whatever the case may be. If you are a partaker in anyone breaking the Most High's law, the Most High will set his face against you, and he will set his face against your house. And I would like you to be reminded of this, to be mindful of this. So you may not necessarily be walking contrary, but if you are aiding and abetting someone that is, you are guilty. And therefore the Most High will set his face against you and against your house. So do not do as Eli have done and allow your children to cause you to be blind and to pick their side and walk contrary, for you certainly will pay for it. Now, let's move to Leviticus. Leviticus chapter 20. And we'll read verse 1 through verse 8. Leviticus chapter 20. Leviticus chapter 20. And we will read verse 1 through verse 8. Leviticus chapter 20, verse 1 reads, And Yah spake unto Moses, saying, Again, thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel. Now let me stop there for a second. So we all understand that these laws pertain to the house of Israel, but it also pertains to the stranger that is of a contrite spirit. So the stranger is not to lose hope, to think there's no place for him, because there are many Israelites out here cussing out the stranger. We are to be alike to these Gentiles. We are to teach them. And if they are to turn to the Most High with their whole heart and their whole soul and put away their abominable things, there is a possession for them in the land, greater than sons and daughters. So if you are a stranger listening to this, you are not to be discouraged by these videos that you see when they're telling you there is no place for you. This is not so. Let me reread verse 2 again. Thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death, and the people of the land shall stone him with stones. So anyone that is of the seed of Israel, or you sojourn with Israel, and you are turning your children over to these deities, these idols, the congregation there to set their face against you and to stone you with stones. This is to be done while we're in the land. We cannot put bricks to anyone right now and hit them over the head with cinder blocks for the simple fact that we're not in the land. We can't enforce these things in this land, but we can set our face against them. Now, verse 3, and I will set my face against that man and will cut him off from among his people, because he has given of his seed unto Molech to defile my sanctuary and to profane my holy name. Verse 4, and if the people of the land do any ways hide their eyes from that man, or from the man when he giveth his seed unto Molech, and kill him not, then I will set my face against that man and against his family, and will cut him off, and all that go a whoring after him, to commit whoredom with Molech from among their people. What is this saying? This is saying, if there's any man within our congregation, whether he be of Israel or whether he be of the stranger, if this man is walking after idols, this man takes him and offers his sons or his daughters up to idols, I'm going to take my example. I'm going to take my child and have him baptized. I'm going to take him into a church and offer him up to a God that no one's ever heard of. If we're in the days of old and a man of Israel or a woman of Israel was doing such a thing, the instructions and the judgment was and is to put them to death. And the Most High said, if anyone would see this thing and knew that a man was doing this, and they hid their eyes from him, act like, well, I didn't see my uncle take my nephew down there and get him baptized in that church. I didn't see that. I didn't see him turning over my niece to Molech. If you turn your eyes from that and you did not enforce the judgment that the Most High had actually laid out, the Most High said he would set his face against you and your house. Verse 6, and the soul that turneth after such as having familiar spirits, wizards, soul that poor, and be ye holy, for I, Yah, your strong one, am holy. Verse 8, and ye shall keep my statutes and them. I am Yah, which sanctify you. Now, when it comes to walking within this law, any man that chose to walk contrary to the Most High's instruction the whole congregation were to set their faces against that man, he would literally have to go live someplace else. Go live with the Moabites. Go live and dwell in the midst of the Canaanites. Go dwell with the Midianites. You would have to go dwell someplace, because if we are all walking within the laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts of the Most High, and you have done something that's so egregious that the Most High has set his face against you, if you did wrong, and I know good and well, if I aid and abet you in any fashion, the Most High will set his face against me and set his face against my house. When you come to my door, I'm going to slam it in your face. I don't want any dealings with you. The Most High has set his face against you. You have walked contrary to the Most High's law. And so therefore my house will do that. And every other house does that. All of a sudden, you are cut off from your people. No one in the congregation wants to deal with you. You have to go someplace else. You are cut off from your people because the house of Israel is walking in accordance to the law. We understand clearly we will pay when we aid and abet. If you are reading this law and you understand it in any form or fashion, you understand in the house of Israel, when one of us mess up, we all pay. In the Marine Corps, when I was a Marine, it's the same thing. One Marine messes up, the whole platoon pays. It is no different in the house of Israel. When one person messed up, the whole congregation paid for it. And that is why we stoned them. Because we understood, if we allow you to be in our midst, your folly can spread. If we allow to aid and abet homosexuals, that can spread. Number one, it kills our population, because if we were to turn to that behavior, number one, we couldn't reproduce. Secondly, it tarnishes our young men to see this, and our young women to see this, and it's an abomination before the Most High. So therefore, if your sons and your daughters are walking in this behavior, you can't possibly say you're walking in the Most High's law, and then also then aid and abet and make excuses for your son if he is walking in that fashion. The Most High will set his face against you and against your house. So it's one way, and that's it. You're either going to walk within the confines of the Most High's law, or you're going to choose your children and whatever else before the Most High. And once you do this, you have broken the very first commandment that we were given. We are to put absolutely nothing before the Most High. Doesn't care if it's you, your children, or anything else. You're to put nothing before him. And we're to walk in his laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts. And we are to enforce them where and when possible. We're not to aid and abet those who are walking contrary to the Most High's law, for he will set his face against us and against our houses. Now, let's move to Leviticus chapter 26. Leviticus chapter 26. Leviticus chapter 26, we'll read verse 14 to verse 18. And Leviticus chapter 26 reads, starting at verse 14. But if ye will not hearken unto me, and will not do all these commandments, and if ye shall despise my statutes, hate them, and if your soul hate or abhor my judgments, so that you will not do all my commandments, but that ye break my covenant, I will also do this unto you. I will even appoint over you terror, consumption, and the burning awe that shall consume the eyes and cause sorrow of heart. And ye shall sow your seed against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies. They that hate you shall reign over you, and ye shall flee where none pursueth. Verse 18. And if ye will not yet for all this hearken unto me, then I will punish you 7 times more for your sins. So the Most High is saying, I'm giving you these judgments, statutes, and precepts. Here's a law. When someone walks contrary to it, you're to do this. So when someone walks contrary and you decide you're going to hide your eyes from them, I didn't see that man ate that pig sandwich over there. You're hiding your eyes. You're not mentioning it to him. You're causing your brother to sin. You're suffering him to sin. He may be upset at you for telling him, hey, man, you know we're not supposed to eat pork. Man, I'm going to eat what I want, blah, blah, blah. You know how our people are, right? But you have done your part. You have not suffered him to sin. You reminded him, hey, Leviticus chapter 11 makes it clear that we are not to eat this pork. It's abominable. It's an abominable thing. So you have done your part by reiterating to him that law. And you're not going to aid and abet him in anything that he's doing that's contrary to that law. For if you are, the Most High will set his face against you and against your house. And as we have read before, and you know from many previous lessons, that the Most High will set his face against us, and he will punish us 7 times more if we refuse to be reformed by his correction. All right. Now let's move down to Ezekiel chapter 14. Let's move to Ezekiel chapter 14. Ezekiel chapter 14. This is our last stop on this lesson. Ezekiel chapter 14. In Ezekiel chapter 14, we will start at verse 1 and we will read through verse 11. And Ezekiel chapter 14, verse 1 reads, Then came certain of the elders of Israel unto me, and sat before me. And the word came unto me, saying, Son of man, these men have set up their idols in their heart, and put the stumbling block of their iniquity before their face. Should I be inquired of at all by them? Verse 4, Therefore speak unto them, and say unto them, Thus saith Yah, every man of the house of Israel that setteth up his idol in his heart, and putteth the stumbling block of his iniquity before his face, and cometh to anyone that's walking in idolatry, that comes before the Most High, inquired the prophets, the Most High said he's going to answer him according to the multitude of his idols. I said he's going to answer him according to the multitude of his idols. Their own heart fed up in gods that the Most High hath not given them. Verse 6, Therefore say unto the house of Israel, Thus saith Yah, Repent, and turn yourselves from your idols, and turn away your faces from all your abominations including these idols, what you eat, what you wear, what you do, anything that's contrary to this law. He's asking us simply to repent, to turn ourselves from wickedness unto righteousness. Verse 7, For every one of the house of Israel, or of the stranger, you strangers are not to be excluded, that sojourneth in Israel, which separateth himself from me, and setteth up his idol in his heart, and putteth the stumbling block of his iniquity before his face, and cometh to a prophet to inquire of him concerning me, I, Yah, will answer him by myself. So the Most High is going to deal with you personally if you are walking after idols, and then you sought to come before the Most High and inquire of him by way of his prophets. We're at verse 8. Let me take a sip. Verse 8. And I will set my face against that man. Once again, walking contrary, he's going to set his face against you. If you're aiding and abetting anyone that's walking contrary, he's going to set his face against you. And will make him a sign and a proverb. And I will cut him off from the midst of my people. And ye shall know that I am Yah. Verse 9. And if that prophet be deceived, when he has spoken a thing, I, Yah, have deceived that prophet, and I will stretch out my hand upon him, and will destroy him from the midst of my people. Any prophet or someone that claims to be a prophet that's walking after idols, and he speak a thing, the Most High is going to deceive him, and the Most High is going to destroy that prophet of these idols that's sitting in the midst. The punishment of the prophet shall be even as the punishment of him